If you would all extend some grace tonight. I've never run a meeting, so thank you. Use some training wheels here. If you would join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lori Bourgeau. Present. Kelsey Cook is absent. Maureen Helmut.
Yes.
Allison Kemp.
Yes.
Ashley Ross.
Here.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to excuse Kelsey Cook.
I'll make a motion to approve Kelsey Cook for the regular meeting of June 29th, for the special meeting of June 29th,
This was our
2022.
regular one.
All right,
It's a regular.
The last one's second.
It's a regular meeting.
we moved the date.
All right, we'll go with regular meeting. I'm not gonna argue with you.
So Allison, the bar is kind of low right now.
I know, right? We're good.
Exactly. I can do or anything.
Okay.
Any support
Sport.
for that inadequate motion?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? All right,
That was
thank
like the
you.
easiest motion of the night. It's gonna be a long meeting, though.
It's gonna be a very long night. Okay. Approval of the agenda. Would we like to make any changes to the agenda?
I would like to recommend 2 changes to the agenda that I can see. Moving up current item 9H to be 9A.
Does that work for everyone? Is everyone present who is looking to be present for that item? Okay. I just want to make sure we didn't. Okay.
And then I would also make a recommendation to move current item 9D, the museum discussion, up to 9B. And then I didn't know if there was anybody else in the audience, but just to expedite so people don't have to stay if they don't want to.
I'll support that.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Thank you. And because, all right. Next up, we have presentations, the police department, recognition for outstanding service, Dave Gerber. Chief, if you help, please.
Thank you.
Good evening, council, citizens. I don't know what this is. Well, you know, this is way overdue for my friend Dave Gerber. Try not to get worked up. I'm such an emotional speecher or talker or whatever you want to call it. But I've known Dave for over 25 years. I mean, it's been a long time. Not only has he served the Oxford Police Department as a chaplain, I'm also proud to call him my loyal friend. And I swear, you look up in the dictionary, you look up the word loyal, his picture is like right next to it. So, and I ain't kidding either. Dave has been by my side for the good and the sad. I remember when I needed him to assist me with the death notification of parents that a daughter had just died in a car accident. I also remember a night when a bar fight broke out and the crowd started to close in on me before my backup got there. I looked in the crowd and I saw Dave. For those of you that don't know, he's a black belt in some type of Jedi conflict, and I just knew that my odds got a lot better. So I was very thankful for that. He will tell you, and I know I'm going to steal your thunder on this if you decided to talk tonight, hit one of his best times with me when he would come in and do ride-alongs with me, pulled the car over for speeding. I walked up to the car and I could see on his bumper sticker it says, "Missing your cat, check under my car." Well, as an animal lover and a cat lover, which I have, I didn't appreciate that, so I just said to him, I said, "Hey, listen, I don't like your bumper sticker." He says, "Why? Are you missing your cat?" I'm like, seriously? You're not getting yourself out of this at all, I see. So when I needed Dave as a pastor for family, when my brother passed away, his response was, "What time do you need me there? I'm on my way." Dave also, in a good time, he married my wife and I. Even though he
Big
warned,
mistake.
even though he warned her. Yeah, yeah, he did. This past year was a tough year for this community. Again, Dave was ready to do what was necessary to pull people through. When he was asked to speak at the downtown vigil, he responded. Not only was that one of the best speeches I've ever heard, it went right to the heart and it was powerful. When the crowd started to panic and start to run, Dave got them to settle down, and the speakers were ready to continue. Just recently, we had Dave, I called Dave and I said, Dave, we've got a downtown rally. He says, what time do you need me there? I can't say it enough, Dave, this is overdue. Thank you. For being by my side and being my friend. Ruth, thanks for sharing Dave all these years. And keep your eye on the bat phone because it's not a matter of if, it's when it's going to ring. There you go. I had to bring Batman in there. So Dave, please, it's my honor to please present you with overdue dedication and service to the Oxford Police Department and the Oxford community. Thank you for your service.
I did say the guy who probably shouldn't get a ticket after that comment, but he didn't think it was as funny as I did.
I could have kept you guys here all night.
Congratulations, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for everything. Yep.
If we're gonna take a motion, I'd like to vote against Dave getting it.
Wow. May I just, I'm going to address one moment.
Uh-oh.
Maureen and I go back. And Maureen, Chief, really don't know how to describe Maureen. I was bringing my daughter and my two nieces, 10 years old, 9 years old, and I know Mo. You all know Mo. And I saw Mo standing as I was going to bring them over to get a tour of the police department. And I saw Mo. And I ran up as fast as I could, and I said, for the love of everything that is decent in this world, please be nice. And she's, hi, Lindsay. Hi, Caroline. Hi, Franny. It is so nice to see you. Oh, your dad's a chaplain, and this is the holding cell, and this is this, and this is that. I hope you had a good time. And they did, and they loved Mo. And as they walk out the door, she looks at me, she goes, you owe me. And I have owed you for 20 plus years.
Let's let him mark down.
But I've loved this community and I love serving it, and thank you for the opportunity. And Chief, I'll be over to see your men starting next week. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have call to the public. The public may voluntarily state their name and address. In adherence with the Open Meetings Act, this is time for council to hear, but not engage with the public in discussion on the comments made. Each person will be allowed an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. The public shall refrain from making personal and public attacks against council members or others in attendance, and from making redundant comments. All public comments will be directed to, well, today they will be directed to the President Pro Tem. Thank you. Who would like to go first?
It's kind of scary we have to add all that part in there.
Yeah.
Good evening, Brian Cloutier, Director, Oxford Public Library. Following the failure of the bond a year ago, or whenever it was, I lose track of time now, but we came to the conclusion that we absolutely could not postpone upgrading our heating and cooling system any longer. And so the board did solicit bids. We did enter into contract with a company to overhaul and replace all of our existing heating and cooling. That would be all of the rooftop units, all of the boilers and the controls for the building. Somewhere in the neighborhood about $300,000 we're spending on that. The reason I'm bringing this up is because although we don't have exact dates yet because we're still waiting for some equipment, the day or days that they have to remove the units from the roof and put the new units on top of the roof we will have to close for a short period of time. We're going to try to keep it to about a day, and we'll try to give you as much notice as we can, but it's all subject to whenever the equipment can get here. I know we're going to start on the boilers right away. That will not require any closure to the building, but when we start bringing 25-ton rooftop units off the roof, it's just not a safe environment to have people in the building when we do that. Some of these units, for those that might not be familiar with them, they're the size of a full-size van, and in some type of box truck. They're very big, and we have 2 very large carrier units and several medium-sized units that we're going to be removing. We have to have a huge boom truck with a semi counterweight truck attached to it because it's that big. So it's just not safe to have people in and around the building, and so we'll keep you up to date on when we have to close on that.
Brian,
Skip election day.
is there any issue with the park next door? Or does the Parks and Rec need to be notified so they can make announcements, or the school next door?
Well, Parks and Rec, it really is not an issue at all.
I didn't know with the playground being right there.
Well, no, we just can't have people in the building. And everything that's going to be happening, at least not authorized people in the building, unauthorized people in the building. And everything that's going to be happening is going to be on the north side of the building. So along by the school. So obviously, when I get dates, I'll have to reach out to the school. It will be, obviously, we're going to try to get everything done before school goes back into session. But obviously, we have the Early Literacy Center right next door, too, and we'll have to be working with them on that as well. So that's the plan. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who would like to speak under public comment tonight? All right, seeing none, next on the agenda is a consent agenda, receive and file. Is there a motion to receive and file?
Make a motion to receive and file consent agenda items A1 and 2.
Second.
All right, motion by Helmuth, seconded by Ross. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Thank you. Is there a motion for item B?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items 7B, including the bills, in the amount of $135,130.76.
Second.
All right, motion by Helmuth, second by Ross. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
It's a roll call. Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. Would you call the roll, please?
Bordeaux? Yes. Helmut?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
And Cook is absent.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda, we have item 8, unfinished old business. We have the residential inspection ordinance discussion and draft of ordinance. I know we don't want to go through with the first reading tonight, but I did want to touch base quickly. What we discussed with Rowe isn't in here.
With McKenna?
With McKenna, yes.
As far as the items,
For items that we were looking for,
those would be the list of items.
yes.
Yes.
Is this what we talked about, or am I, so I know we talked about adding carbon monoxide, which I'm not seeing.
That was on the form, the application form. By signing that form under the registration, they're already addressing that it's already been there.
Okay,
And so we've already been receiving those in with those signatures saying that they already attested those being there in the building. I think because we took that up before this even came to be, so it's already listed under the registration ordinance that they have a signature line when they sign that they attest that the smoke detectors are in place as required.
okay. Does everything on that checklist need to be in the ordinance itself?
We have to, I guess, Bob, to address it somehow or point to it as an addendum or something maybe?
The way we did this is, this is a list of, and you're looking at the page 3 right at the top, right?
Yes.
where the list
It
begins.
starts at 2 and 3, yeah.
So that, it's a pretty basic list. Later in the ordinance, you'll see that if, the eyeballs catch other things, obviously they're not out of bounds. What we did try to do was switch the fee structure to be just part of your regular, by reference to your regular fee structure, so we wouldn't have to change the ordinance every time you had to adjust the fees. There's two ways to handle it. I listed them in here for you. The sensors are already in your registration part.
And here.
And here, they're in here again under number 6, if you see. Can you see number 6? That's where it's also listed there. Page 3, number 6, smoke detectors must be installed on every level of the home.
Did we include carbon monoxide in that as well?
We can.
And could we also, for sake of someone reading this and thinking they found a complete list of information, could we also, add on, there's a checklist in there, maybe other required items?
Well, we can say, we could change this. This is one of the things we're going to talk about. This could be the bare minimum list.
Okay,
So it could be including the following, but not limited to the following.
okay.
What we were trying to do, if you recall, was the community, well, the people who spoke against this type of an ordinance didn't want a runaway list, and all of a sudden we're checking paint colors. And we heard from the experts, mainly our fire chief, and then we had McKenna look at it, and we said, well, here's some things that are just fundamental. We should deal with these fundamental things. And we shouldn't drift into longer lists. So you kind of got to give me some guidance here. I can say including but not limited to. If you go down further on that same page, I do put in provisions where re-inspections can occur if a visual observation is made by a safety person. So if the chief was there for some other reason and noticed something egregious matter, that can trigger an inspection under the very next section. So I'm trying to walk a balance here between, keeping what you folks want to be on the list, but not making it an forever list and then have the folks come and say, the list is too broad and too large. So I think with Kelsey not being here, who's very articulate and knowledgeable on this, it might be wise if we set this over to when she is here at the next meeting. But in the meantime, without forming a chain of emails among you, if any of you could forward to me directly your thoughts or your changes. The one blank on page 3 is just meant to refer to our registration ordinance. That's all it was, Joe. It's just cite in there, within 60 days of registration under, and then that under is where that you cite to the other ordinance.
My last question before if anyone else would like to comment. At one point we talked about a provision to allow an appeal process because we don't want some power hungry, someone to start nitpicking things. We want to address life and safety. Is this in here? I'm not seeing it, and I apologize because that just popped into my mind, but I'm not seeing it. Or would you just automatically be able to appeal to the ZBA?
One of the things,
I'll answer that in a second.
going back to the listing things, we wanted to have something definitive so they know exactly what is it being looked for and what isn't. I know that was part of the discussion, so we don't want it to have it be subjective, right? List what we want to, and I think I had like 11 or 12 items at one item, and then some of those things were kind of nixing off, and we boiled it down to these, I think 6, kind of where we ended up. I think those ones that you're most concerned about should be explicitly written in there, so it's black and white, and try to stay away from the ones that, well, I saw something else. Well, if they don't know that's what you're looking for, then it's not as fair to them to not know it. Again, something that was brought up that night, though, if you saw, like, I think the example was someone walks in, you see a hole in the floor going to the basement, well, then that's a code enforcement thing, and that'd be covered for that.
So your answer on the appeal process is, I looked at your ZBA ordinance, and your ZBA has a right to hear variance requests, they have the right to do zoning interpretations, and they have the right to challenge any decision of a building official or other official of the village. So I don't know if you want a new layer of an appeal process if you already have one. Try to keep it a little...
As long as that can be used for...
Yes. So it's any decision of any building official or official... Did I talk too long?
Yes.
Any decision of any building official and/or official or commission of the village can be appealed. So then the ZBA would have, the right to hold a hearing and talk about this.
Anyone else have any further?
I would like to see an F add smoke and carbon monoxide detectors to
We
be.
have that already here.
And then I as well would like to wait until Kelsey's here. I think that she brings a really great perspective to it.
So on F, just add in the CO2.
Right.
Okay. All right.
I'll make a motion to set this aside until the regular meeting in July, the first regular meeting in July.
Support? All right. Motion made by Helmuth, supported by Kemp. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Hearing none. All right. Next on our agenda is new business. Item A is the student group discussing the memorial. If you'd like to come up and share with us, please.
No one sang the national anthem, so we'll just...
Hi, we're here to talk about the community memorial. My name is Raina.
I'm Olivia. I'm Abby.
First, we wanted to say thank you. Thank you for providing us with an opportunity to come together and bring student voices to the design of the community memorial. Some of the students include, obviously, us, Nathan Schilling, Olivia Curtis, Jack Curtis, Sylvia Lester, Kena Anderle, Brady Elling, and Maddie Johnson. Reasons why this is so important to us is because we want to celebrate and honor the lives of Hannah, Justin, Tate, and Madison. We really want to be a part of the conversation. We are all really closely connected to Hannah, Justin, Tate, and Madison, and we really want to see the initial memorial happen soon.
So we've come up with two different sections, I guess, or parts for the memorial. Like Corinne just said, we talked about an initial plan for a memorial that we want to happen sooner than later. So we checked out Scripter Park because we were told that's possibly one of the areas that the memorial could be. So we're looking at the area that's the closest to the road, where like right past the volleyball court area. So one of our main things was we want individuality between all 4 students. So we talked about 4 trees selected by the families, and a plaque, whether it's on the tree or by the tree, to tell the community whose area you're in. Also a circular bench around the tree for a sitting area if people want to just come and, just think or ponder or something. And then we also talked about some sort of a rock garden for the community to be involved. They could come and write memories or just write whatever they want on these rocks, and it will grow over time. And then we also talked about some sort of a boulder. We don't know quite what the boulder will be, whether it will have a plaque on it or a saying for each of the students, but that's just one of our ideas for the initial memorial. And then we talked about a long-term plan. Like we said, we want something to happen sooner than later, but we also want something to be large and extravagant for Justin, Hannah, Tate, and Madison. So we talked about personalized brick pavers, kind of like at Kids Kingdom, where companies can purchase a brick, or even the community can purchase a brick, and it'll kind of lead to also fundraising ideas. And then we talked about a large centerpiece. We don't know quite the idea of a centerpiece yet, but we just want something that will be monumental and special to, of course, honor Justin, Hannah, Tate, and Madison and celebrate their lives.
Okay, so far we have organized 2 meetings and just got people together to talk about ideas and see what we were looking for in the memorial. We got advocates from each of the 4 families, close friends and family members to come to these meetings. We went to Scripter Park, like she said, we looked for the most ideal location, walked around to see like what would best suit what we were thinking about, and then we also consulted with a designer to give her our ideas and see if she can possibly put those into reality. So our next steps would be finalizing our design plans for the temporary as well as the permanent memorial, and then looking into generating a grant as well as fundraising ideas, like she said, the bricks, something like that, GoFundMe's. We would also need to find companies for overall design and construction of the memorial, and then determine the amount of space allocated and a time frame.
Thank you. I so appreciate being here tonight. Thank you. Council, have any questions to start?
I have a couple of things. First of all, we were kind of talking about doing something similar. And one of the things we talked about was the trees in specific, and I am not good with plants, so I'm not the person for that. But one thing that Mo had brought up is that certain trees do better, and you said there was somebody specific you knew that...
If a member of the planning commission knows way more about trees than anybody in the world ever should, and where they should be planted. Scripter Park has really crummy soil in some spots, but picture Scripter, if you're looking at it from Pulaski Street, here's the bathrooms. To the right, over by the pines, is the best soil. It's not sandy, a lot of it's sand, a lot of it's, we want the trees to not die in 2 years. We want the DPW to water them, to let them grow, and yes. And getting the families involved. If they want a certain tree and it's gonna grow there, fine. If it's a certain tree that's not gonna grow, we're gonna tell people that.
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe you get the contact of...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think if Leslie
that person, she could give you some lists of some good...
Awesome.
Because you don't want to come in and say, we really want this tree and get your heart set on it,
Yeah.
and then find out that it just isn't going to last long in that area. So I was thinking that might
Absolutely.
be a good starting point.
I think we have some good resources of some people that can help you create your vision, or help you with your vision come to life. So you're right that some of that soil is, it would be, I think it wouldn't be, it'd be terrible if it just wasn't, that the tree's going to take off.
And we did set aside money
We did.
to put in. We don't want saplings, we want big trees that are gonna grow and not get mowed over because the DPW's in early or something like that. We talked about benches, we talked about a rock with either a plaque or an engraving on them in the center of this. And today I was thinking about maybe a time capsule. Let everybody write letters to their friends. We put it in a box, we put it in the ground in October 30th, whatever day, you can still put the rock on top of that. Doesn't get open for 50, 100 years, whatever you want. I think Scripter Park is the perfect place for this. Every student eventually ends up at Scripter Park. You just do, for something. Senior skip day, track meet, something. I'm not gonna say it's legal, but they end up there. And I want a place for you guys to go and be able to talk to your friends and remember your friends. I don't want the plaques on the trees because I think that'll kill the trees. But I have no problems with plaques in front of the trees. If you want a separate one for each student, we can make that happen.
Another thing you had talked about 2 different phases. You said the one is 10th, but I assume you are planning on leaving phase 1 there forever too, and then also in your phase 2 doing a bigger, grander kind of
Yeah,
thing.
so what we kind of talked about was we are gonna build off of the initial memorial. It's not temporary, it's more like short-term and then long-term.
Right.
So our whole idea was to have like sections for each of the students, and then in the middle have the centerpiece or something that's large and monumental, and that's gonna be going later. We just want something that will happen now, well, not right now, but like sooner than later, and then something bigger 5 5, 3, however long.
However long it takes,
yeah,
you
how
can have
many
something now
years
and then you
Yeah.
know where it's going to be in your next phase.
Ashley?
Okay, a couple of things. So fiscal year starts, what, couple days? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, so we've set aside. I am of the opinion that they've put together a wonderful plan that very much coincides with kind of what we initiated to, you know, if this is what they want, as long as we can make it happen in budget, like, let's get it done immediately within the next month, since tomorrow's the next.
We don't plant trees until the fall.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Just for
But
the
we can
trees,
start
you
the
don't
movement
plant until September, October, you want to be cooler.
But we'd want Leslie to pull together a
Absolutely.
list
Yep.
and, you know, order plaques, what are we gonna
Right.
say, plan it out. You know, we can, you know, starting tomorrow, we have budget for it.
Right.
What was our, will you remind, how much did we set aside?
I think 2,000. I think we guesstimated around
I thought it was
500.
more.
We upped it.
We
Oh,
upped
that's
it
right,
at
I think we
Yeah.
did. We went to 4. But again,
I think it was like 7 or 8.
7.5.
We're also good with the budget, that was
we already approved it. I don't know, it's in
It was
there.
some, I think it was 7 or 8.
But then, to their point about wanting to see something relatively soon, if you got a rough idea of the area, not a final design, and you got a list of, here's 5 or 6 trees that Leslie and whoever, chief, you know, stuff too, these could be good options for them to pick from. If those were picked out, availability could be an issue, but I could potentially see those 4 trees being planted this fall.
You just gotta space
Other
them.
things need more extensive planning, I think, to go along with it, but I think the goal of this before winter would be get those 4 trees picked out and planted. I think that's attainable.
So we can find out what our budget is and let them know and extend
Yeah.
that to them to their phase 1.
Yeah. I think the idea was if, 4 trees, you can only get them so big, but they could range from 3 to 5 or 600 apiece, depending on the species, I guess, and availability of them. So that would take a certain chunk of it, and then there's other chunks left for maybe next spring or late spring next year to do some additional things. But if you wanted to see something done this year, I think maybe getting 4 trees in the ground might be the first goal.
Can I jump in on the side? So I guess what I'd be curious to know, what would help us with planning would be to understand what space, how gracious you guys could be with what space would be available, because that would really help us kind of hone the major component of the plan.
The only other thing we've talked about in our plan that I've thrown to council and haven't made a decision on is potentially putting the pavilion kind of near the volleyball thing, just off near the parking area. But the area that Maureen is talking about is farther south and back against the trees anyway, so that's a separate area.
We wanted it to be like visible with near the trees, like the ones you're talking about. Can you see that from the road?
Can I cheat for a minute? Chief, you know probably, I suppose I don't know everyone in this room's knowledge. Where would be the most visible place a tree could realistically thrive?
Gee, Pete, you know everything?
I know you should know everything.
It's like soil management.
Because I don't want to push it off into the corner, but
As
a
the
lot
fire
of
chief.
Dirt so sandy.
Just about anywhere is in that park that you want to plant it. Horticulturalists can make it grow. I mean, obviously, the soil is amended, you dig the hole, you change the soil, do whatever you want to, so pretty much any place you can make it work as far as soil conditions and everything, so that's not an issue. Biggest thing is continuing to make sure it gets water. If this
Yeah, do we have a water
DPW is going to have to be hand watering, or if there's a way to get water close to it, somebody can use a hose or whatever, so that's one thing to consider. But I think as soon as concrete isn't the right word, but a plan that they can get close together, if they've got somebody as a designer that's working, can put it on paper and get it whatever and post it, I would dare say that you can probably get the majority of it
Somebody walk.
donated to the thing. I mean, I'm sure Levy will drop you off the biggest boulder that you could probably put on the planet that they can, I would more than happy to do it. And I'm sure there's other landscape companies in the community and other people in the community that can make the entire project happen. So as soon as a plan, project list, that kind of stuff put together, I think would facilitate a lot faster.
Who would be the point person for that area?
For scripter, like for showing them.
Myself and
areas.
Don Brantley could
Yeah.
meet somebody out there, our DPW supervisor. Again, water is an issue. We could perhaps run a hose from the park bathroom over, and because the first year and then the following year of that, trees, I think it's going to need some water.
Yeah, I think that would be the big thing, set up a meeting with Joe, and then he'll get a time for
And perhaps,
Don to come out there too.
perhaps we could, at risk of volunteering her, might be able to join in on that, 'cause she might have more insight
And I know
to help your vision come to life, because I don't want to get it pushed off in the corner, but I mean, I think there's some logistics that make sure.
Well, in your
It doesn't
phase
go to
two
waste.
isn't like a living plant. And so whether you want to do, it sounds like you want to kind of make them around each other. You might find that you need to think of the first phase one in a different spot than phase two, just depending on soil and that's the only thing like that, what's best for trees. But if you bring out, somebody who's good with ground and all the trees, and now you're saying with the trees, we're not telling you what you can or can't have, just you want to make sure that whatever you're thinking of is gonna be viable and still there in many, many years, so. I would say that's the big thing. Let's get somebody who really knows the ground. And then Joe would know the areas of the park, if there's any areas that have something in the future.
like where the wells are and stuff, and like keep a certain distance away from them and the well houses.
Would we like to have a discussion about how much space? Would we like to have that tonight, or?
I think if they had a rough idea, I mean, if they're talking like 4 trees, maybe in a semicircle with something in the middle,
Is what,
I'm picking up on, but
I mean, like, I think the concept, like the whole rectangle concept with this, the corner is kind of in theory what we had. So more or less, we're looking at the rectangle with each one having their section in the corners, with the centerpiece in there. So it gives you more of a picture of, instead of it gives, unfortunately, you think trees and benches and you think more circular, but they're still thinking corners and then centerpiece in the middle, of course, centerpiece.
Which is phase two.
Yeah, but this would be the initial, I think. Is that
Yeah.
fair?
Yes.
so maybe like a 90 foot by 90 foot, like an infield is 90 foot by 90 foot by 90, maybe bigger than that. I don't know, but that would give us an idea of what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Plenty of space out there, I think, to
Yeah.
accommodate that.
Okay, that's all.
Do we need any motion, or are we just, we have the budget?
I think meeting with them and getting a solid plan and then give them an idea of distance, location, then they can produce something and bring it back to us. I think it might be a good idea. But in the meantime, we're looking at 4 trees no matter what, right? Why not find out what trees to stay away from and then give them a list of the other ones that are options, and then they can work on choosing them. And then I think the sooner you choose them, the sooner you can reach out on availability of them.
Okay. Do we know of any grants coming up that might apply for their phase two?
Next year, we have the Oakland County Parks grant, but we're hoping to do something to fix our seawall down there, or not our seawall, but our retaining wall.
How much is that? How much can we apply for?
I think 125 is the max. And I think our retaining wall was around 30 or something, 30 to 40. And I floated the idea of a pavilion up there too, but
I'm just wondering if we could fit it all in there.
it might. We have a 25% match, I believe is what that Oakland County Parks grant is. And
Sue, Sue?
I was just going to suggest that you might want to look into where the community garden was, because there was water lines running out there. There was 2 of them at one time.
Okay, I know I went by there just today and noticed that I can still tell where it used to be.
Yeah, and it's right on the
Except when I get with
curve of
Don.
the road, so it would be visible to
Would Don know where those are?
Yeah. Well, I'll get with Don. Don's not been made privy to all this at all, and that'll help shed some light on options.
John
guys know
Brandt
where
is our
that was?
DPW director. He's actually an important person.
Do we have all of your contact information so that Joe can?
I think Rena and then
I mean, we put our phone numbers down when we signed in.
Is there
Yeah.
is there a, like a group email, or I don't want to make sure everyone's included, or is Rena the best?
Did you guys?
I'm sorry, I've done put you on the
If
spot
you
there.
contact me, I'll share with everyone in
Sure.
the group chat, so yeah.
Just a quick, I'm glad we've got, it's kind of cool to see the support. You got a whole community that cares about you guys. And money's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing. It could be $1 million and we'd probably raise that in a month in this community. So you dream big. Fair enough?
I will say one thing I didn't like, and it wasn't clear, the boulder that you wanted. You don't want like a The senior boulder, yeah.
That's like still on the table.
Yeah.
Like that was just like
There's been like ideas thrown around, kind
Yeah.
of like one of the other girls, part of our group, was kind of describing it as like the boulders at the golf courses, like that have the holes on them. Because we want something that has their names somewhere, again, like with a plaque, and that's where the idea of like a boulder or a rock came up.
I don't want anything where, okay, this year it's like, go Oxford, we love you, and in 10 years it's smoke dope, get high, it's a class of 35.
Yeah.
I want it to be, okay, I'm not
This
saying
is what we're talking about.
Not a graffiti boulder.
I think that sounded personal.
Yeah, we want the boulder to be the presentation, not something that's gonna be graffitied by this year's the football team, next year's the volleyball team, next year's the basketball team.
Not like the one in Romeo. where
Well, we've got a senior rock
I
up by
like,
the
I
high
like the
school.
rock garden where you could write messages. I mean, that's something smaller, and if somebody does write it, it's not so offensive as you're driving by.
Right. I just want to make sure we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
I don't think you're thinking of the boulder as the
Yeah.
essentially the centerpiece.
Okay.
Okay.
But not a sissy little boulder. Not a standard boulder.
We're talking Rushmore. Go big or go home.
Little place game.
Oh, Mr. Gutierrez.
Good evening again, Brian Cloutier, Director of the Library. But the reason I'm here right at the moment is I want to share with these folks that I'm also a trustee on the Fort County Community Foundation located in Elmont. Fort County Community Foundation, and for those of you that are unfamiliar with us, we're a smaller community foundation that gives back to communities in the four corners of Oakland, Lapeer, St. Clair, and Macomb County. And Oxford is in the direct service area, which is why I have a seat, one of the reasons why I have a seat as a trustee on their board. I can't make decisions for the foundation, that's not my job there, but I can tell you that when you do get a final plan in play and you do get your final budget and all of your drawings and everything that you want to do, don't forget to reach out to us because I'm quite certain with all of the grant funding that we do in any given year that your project would fit into one of those categories. And the executive director at Fort County Community Foundation is Kathy Dickens. And if you reach out to Kathy and our grant coordinator there as well, they can walk you through the process on whether or not they think this project would meet one of the criteria for one of the grants. So when you're told to think big, because I'm quite certain that this community would come together for you, but there are other avenues too. So when you want to get to the end of that road and you want a little bit more to make it a little more special, don't forget the local community foundations as well, okay?
Thank you.
I think that's a great idea, and they are very helpful, and if you ever need help writing a grant or going through anything, if something does pop up, just let me know.
She means that. She's an excellent grant writer. She's not.
Don't call me.
We have different skill sets. We'll help you out in some way, but
But I'll have her get with
yeah, don't ask us about trees, but Leslie will be able to help you.
if you guys have any.
So do we need any motion, or are we just gonna say work together and,
Joe, can I put you and Don on a committee to work with? Does the group have a name?
Okay.
Yeah, do you guys have a name for your group?
Or just work with the ladies from high
Create a
school?
name, get an email around it,
Yeah.
get something.
I just have their email and, so your name?
Brian Cooper.
Cooper. I was thinking Ballard, but I knew it wasn't right. Cooper. He's the one who reached out to me via email.
Do you want a motion or?
Don't need it, but.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's just put Joe and Don, Brantley, the DPW guy who knows
Brantley?
everything,
Yeah.
on a committee.
Does he have a son that coaches basketball?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's a good smile.
Do we have a conflict?
thank you for all coming.
It's just to work with them and
Get some details.
get this going. So, like I said, the best time to plant trees is the fall. You really don't want to do it in June or July. And let's have a goal set to get it done by then. Something done, something started.
Yeah. Nothing worse than, hurry up and wait.
Whose dog is that? I love that dog. I think he's wonderful.
Please don't.
She's a canine trainer.
He's
That's
such
the
a good
best
boy.
public comment, though. So you're
Can we,
He's supporting.
Can we earmark or that's not the right word, but when we do apply for the grant next year to like, I mean, obviously that is not up to us whether we get it, but try to get some funds in that?
We can make it part of our plan.
Okay.
You know, it has, whatever we put in, apply for has to be part of our capital improvement plan, which I've been working on. I'm going to be presenting in June, July, or July, August, September-ish. So we have it in our plan.
Okay.
So that's part of it. So then January rolls around, it'll be eligible to be applied for.
Okay.
Such as the retaining wall or pavilion and picnic tables and things like that for the park. Aspects of this could fit in there as well. We just make sure and put them in our plan.
I would just request that they keep us, not for permission, keep us kind of updated when you have big steps so that, because we'll be trying to get the budget in there and including it. I understand we won't, phase 2 might not be entirely in our budget, but the things that we can put towards it, we're putting that out there, and then you guys know where else you have to go for additional. I mean, I know you'll get it, so like I said, dream big and just keep us updated through email along the way, and yeah, I'm excited to let the kids do what you guys want.
Yeah, and I do have one last comment for it. If you do find a grant in the meantime or something's coming up and we're working together, if the village is going to be your fiscal sponsor, which I'm assuming we are since it's on our property, we would just need to have a motion ahead of time that, we can apply for that grant. So if you find something, I want to make sure that you're aware of the lead time on it so that it's all on the up and up and we can get it done as effectively as possible.
Nicely done, ladies. Let the rest of the group go.
Thank you.
You did a good job. I mean, we're on the same page.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Disregard the comment about senior skip day.
I went to Oxford. I'm a Wildcat.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right, next on our agenda, we have the Acton Historical Society Museum in the Village of Oxford. Joe, would you provide some background?
There's been a while now, we've been looking, Sue's been looking, trying to find what we have in place that describes our role, their role, our responsibility, their responsibility, and we have something, but it's, 51 years old. I saw an email that Sue had shared with me about in 2011 that there may have been a version floating around, but not seen that version. So I think it's just time that we get something updated on the books so everyone can point to us and say, yeah, this is it. And it just makes sense, I think, to have something in place so everybody knows. Again, we own and insure the building, you guys own and insure the contents. We know that, but I think having that spelled out in our files is good.
Ms. Harvey, don't you think there's a more recent agreement than this?
Not that I can find it, not that anybody on the board will know.
I could have sworn we did something.
And so it says,
There was a letter that Joe worked with Jerry Griffin from 2011, and it refers to the agreement of 2011 that's attached. Well, the one that's attached in there is from 1971. So there, that I know of, and I've talked to, Marie English, and she's been there forever. She knows of nothing. Now, I have not had time to go through the minutes for the last X number of years.
Well, what are you doing with your time? I didn't get here to look either. It just seems to me like there's an agreement. I didn't get down to the
I know,
basement.
now that I'm retired, I should be able to see
We have all the time in the world. Did you not think?
But nothing that we have been able to put our hands on or that anybody even knows about.
So I just think perhaps Mr. Davis could draft a general type thing and then share it with the Forest Society, museum, look at Brian, library, and get it going back and forth so everyone's on the same page and get something in the books. I mean, even if there's one from 2011, maybe we need it to sprucing up at this point anyways. Don't know. We don't have it, so we don't know.
Ashley, you had some thoughts.
so I have a lot of questions, but I think it all stems from, the only agreement I can see is from 1971, and of course, that's problematic. So I sent a list of questions over, which I'm sure you saw, but I think all of them can be addressed with an updated agreement and just best practices so that, you know, if something needs to be fixed, or, you know, like with windows, I know the basement, I think, had some issues. Is that our responsibility or your responsibility? We want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence on both ends.
Sue is more than capable of answering all these questions too, but I am the president of the Historical Society, and Sue and I have been talking a lot about that, and yeah, a lot of what we're reading in the original contract is that we are responsible for maintenance on the building, and so those are a lot of the things that we've been doing in the last over the years, but particularly in the last couple of years, we've invested quite a bit of money in updating the building and making it more conducive to the future of the Historical Society and being proper stewards of the history of this community. So, but were there any specific questions that?
Oh, the windows were one of the biggest ones because, and again, I'm looking back at a 71 agreement. So we're on, you know, page 3, number 13. The tenant shall not make any alterations, additions, or improvements to said premise without the landlord's consent. And I'm certain there was issues with the window blocks that we had or whatever was before, but it's just, I think, one of those things that everyone's been, you know, chugging along, and we could be a little bit more cooperative on, you know, both ends.
Well, and quite honestly, too, the window blocks were not original to the building.
Right.
We were actually restoring it back to its original grandeur. Perhaps we should have come to looking at it in hindsight, we could have, but we would not do anything, as you know, to jeopardize the historic integrity of that building. In fact, we're only trying to enhance it and bring it back to its original grandeur. So, on behalf of the board, I'll apologize that we didn't come to you, but we really didn't, we weren't looking at it from that perspective. I mean, obviously, if we're going to do some other things, we would bring them to, but we felt like restoring the building to its original grandeur was not going to be an issue. And I don't get the sense that it was.
No.
But you're correct. We probably should have come to you. I mean, according to that.
According to
Right,
this stuff. I think that's more of where a lot of the things that I was reading is like, do we have an agreement? You know, it's not that anyone's trying to, I think, nickel and dime or change necessary terms, but even.
And to be honest with you, the window blocks were becoming a safety hazard for everyone. I mean, they were crumbling, literally crumbling, and it was a matter of time, and they were going to start falling out into the sidewalk.
And just to follow up on that, they didn't need a permit because they weren't changing the window opening just like anybody else, so it wasn't like they did something that needed a permit that we didn't get, so it was just a replacement of the glass.
To exactly what you're talking, I mean, looking at the original contract, correct, we even had a dialogue about that. You know, perhaps we should have, when we looked at it again, we should have probably come to you, but we didn't, so I'll apologize. It's one of those where I'll apologize later.
Shame.
Forgiven as long as it was a good update, so.
No, I think.
It looks nice.
Yes.
But likewise, we know we would never like paint the outside of the building. We would never do anything like
Let's see me
that.
screaming down the road.
Right.
No, I think
'Cause that's what we do. That's what we're in the business of doing.
Some of this could be cleaned up because I've lost where it is, but there's even somewhere where we have to approve any and all signage posted in the windows, and I'm sure anything you put up would be very tactful and appropriate for the building. I don't think we need to approve your flyer that you put up for an event you're hosting.
It needs work.
Yes.
Yeah, we agree.
yeah.
We're in agreement. And
We're not trying to micromanage. A question I had was, landlord releases tenant to the extent of the insurance coverage from any and all liability.
Number 12?
Number 28, actually. But there's two different parts to it, I think. And now granted, the insurance coverage from 71 is no longer, would touch any, I'm assuming that.
We have an insurance
It's all been
policy
updated?
that covers
Okay.
all the contents and the liability and all that. We are fully insured.
Okay, because, yes, it would be nice if this money went
have to
very
be.
far at this point, but I don't think it would,
The amounts, and there were 1971 amounts. Obviously, what you have now is today's amounts.
yeah,
Right.
okay.
But we don't know what that is, and we don't have a copy of it, and perhaps we should, I suppose, in the file, just to say, yeah, we know there's some liability coverage on there that's partly protecting us.
I'm sure we can accommodate
Yeah,
that.
simple stuff.
Yeah.
And then I have two more practical, like, boots on the ground things. So, one, does anyone in the village have access to the building? So, like, when we needed the speakers the other day, I know, Sue, you're very accommodating and you came right down, but just so that, you know,
If you're in Florida,
right, you know,
I don't believe we have keys to it. I don't, I would have to confirm that with Don, but I don't think we do, for any reason to.
I don't know either. I don't know the answer to that.
I know, Kelly, just, you need access periodically. Periodically
right,
for the.
and
for the
I mean,
music
that's
thing.
fine while Sue is agreeable and in here.
For the first time
Not laid
the
up
other
for surgery.
day when we needed them turned off unexpectedly.
I will say this, because of the contents that are in that building, as the president of the society, I would not feel comfortable with just a key being freely available to anyone. So we would, if you would like a key, we could, I'm sure, accommodate that, but there must be some standards attached to that key.
Agreed.
How do you feel about a Knox box?
Like the chief would have on the side of the building?
Yeah.
You know, Sue and I had that discussion,
Don't
did
they
we
have
not? Because most of our commercial buildings do have that, and the library has it. I mean, that's something that Sue and I had that dialogue. We could work with the fire department, I'm sure, to make that happen. Because you probably should have a key for that purpose.
And maybe, because they're around like all the time, somebody is, right? Maybe that would suffice for us for, I don't know, we want to bother them because she needs to go in and turn down the music and when Sue's in Florida. So maybe there's an Knox box in there that, you know, a
Again,
separate one. Maybe
I
there's a separate
personally
one.
would have a problem if just anyone had access to that key.
Could
Right.
it be, because of the purpose, could it be limited to the DDA executive director, fire chief, or Joe Madore?
I would say like the village manager would probably be an appropriate person for that. But as soon as we start handing that to a fire chief, obviously would have a box, maybe a key, a lockbox. But again,
I mean,
when we start getting a lot of hands on these keys, I have issue with it.
I'm not saying separate keys, I'm saying
But
like
access to.
access to the box that, you know, if we needed to go in.
We'll
it would be-
have to discuss that and work that out, yeah.
Because I do see, and trust me, I completely understand. I'm the museum person. I get it. Why we don't want people in there. I just know we had a very, like, people were crying and all of a sudden it's like, la, 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 the speaker.
But again, think about this
So
too,
that's-
and I'm not like trying to get away from giving you a key, but I am saying that Sue is pretty readily available. I'm the director of the library. I have a key to the building. I'm in the library every day, pretty much. So I think to suffice the chief's concern, absolutely, we should address that. To get you a key to the building, I think we can address that too. But again, we need to set a very strict standard about who has access to that key.
And I think we can do even guidelines for like where you're allowed to go and touch and all of that. And of course, no one would ever go in, just like any other tenant, without you being notified.
Right. I mean, it's not any different, really, when you look at it from that perspective. A landlord just doesn't freely enter a building without the tenant knowing.
Could we have some sort
Put one of
of,
those boxes, and when somebody uses the key, you change the code so that the next time. they-
Well, the key box that the chief is probably thinking about is a little different than that. It's specifically for that purpose. It's not like a box that has a code like a realtor would use. It's an actual box that's secured to the building for their purpose.
If you look right on the back side of our slider door entrance, there's one on the wall there. It's got a little red reflector on it, usually red or white, both. Small. They have it, boom, gets a key to inside our building.
I think it'd be great to dial 911 to get the radio changed.
Right, and I would suspect that the chief and his staff, they have other things to deal with than letting you guys into the building.
oh,
But you should have an Knox box in either way, and then we'll figure out the rest.
I think the chief should have a box, absolutely.
Yep.
I would agree with that.
if we can figure out some way just to have a key, and we'll figure out the terms, but I absolutely, I see that there should be restrictions, and I
And
know.
that can be laid out in the terms of the new contract.
And
that
you
we
two
come
are
up.
great. It's more just for the long term, like what happens, or if you're on vacation or somebody can't be there, you know, so we don't end up where, you know, in 2011, we talked about this, but who knows what actually happened. type
No, I
thing.
think as long as it's spelled out in whatever we agree upon and it's followed, I think we can be accommodating.
Thank you. And then I had one other, can I ask Kelly a question? Are we still looking to do lighting on the buildings?
It's gonna be rediscussed, it's gonna come up here, yeah, with the DDA.
Okay. So I know, and I say I know, I wasn't a part of the conversation, but lighting on the exterior of the buildings, and I think this should be clear in our agreement too. The downtown districts are looking to have outdoor lighting, whether it be holiday lighting or just all sorts of lighting, that, you know, if it's the exterior of the building, who has, you know, a say on that versus interior, etc. So if we wanted to put lighting on the building, you know, how that would be.
Rooftop skyline
Okay.
in the district.
Yeah, my concern is it's the only limestone building in the downtown, and it is to be treated differently than any other type of brick. So when you start saying we're gonna start attaching lights to the building, I mean, in theory, it's your building, and, you know. That being said, though, we are the stewards of that building. We are the historians, not that you aren't. You have knowledge probably more than anybody here on that topic. That being said, we have to be careful about how that's addressed, because that building is not like any other building in this community, and it should be held to a different standard than any of the other buildings in this community.
Yes.
Just by the nature of what it's made of.
Absolutely, and I think that we'll have that discussion as it comes up, or if it comes up again, that we make sure that whatever integrity is kept. And I know the company that we've worked with in the past has been really good about it, but that we actually have folks going out and saying like, yes, this is okay, or no, it's not.
Because there was discussion too about when a company was hired to clean the exterior of all the buildings. I met with them as well as Sue, and I advised them not to do it, because if you're not knowledgeable about how to properly clean that limestone building, you take a power washer to it, you're gonna screw it up really fast, and you can't reverse that. So that's why we were like, absolutely not. If you're not, I asked the crew, are you knowledgeable in working with historic limestone buildings? The answer was no. My answer was, then do not touch it.
And I think that's an important part too, just so that we have that in there, that if we do contract with somebody, they do have that knowledge.
Because honestly, you can mess that building up really fast, and you cannot reverse that.
I think that's all the questions I had for now, just because I know if we're gonna update something, I think it would address just everything that we're all like, okay, whatever. Thank you, Brian.
I think whatever you bring forward, we're obviously gonna look at it, and we're gonna work through it, and we're gonna have a back and forth dialogue, and we're gonna come to something that I think we're all gonna be happy with in the end. Okay?
That's the goal.
That is absolutely the goal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item C, 2022 Emergency Federal Law Enforcement Assistance Grant. Chief, would you like to take the lead with this one? Or Joe?
Or take a pass.
Joe?
Well, I think, I'm not sure if I was supposed to speak on this or not.
Right.
Or the, was there a memo out for this? I can't remember.
No, there's not a memo, but the communications, the emails, and the actual agreement has to be, you know, signed.
You could explain, Mike, what you guys did.
Yeah, it's basically overtime or hours that were spent, excuse me, after the high school tragedy that wasn't accounted for. So we put in for our hours to get reimbursed for that, like other entities did through the state. So I accumulated those hours on what we would have not had if it wasn't for the overtime, and not necessarily just the overtime, but having the extra bodies come in when the schools were having counseling sessions, open gyms, the vigils, there was multiple vigils. The schools wanted us at the schools from sunup to sundown, and we were doing everything that we could and using everything that we had to accommodate that, rightfully so, because of what went on. So, and those figures that Joe has there is what I came up with and what we had to utilize during that time frame.
Basically, we just need permission to apply or to sign
Terry's put together the program and the status report, I think in there. We just need permission to sign the contract, because you have to sign the contract in order to get reimbursed.
Chief, are you happy with the number?
I am. I'm the one that put it together for Joe. I accumulated everybody's times and hours and...
The rest of the document looks like it's ready to go.
This was something that came from the federal, Michigan State Police, and they're the ones who then facilitated the grant for the state to the individual communities.
Does Joe sign it or do you sign it?
Not chief. We were thinking that we either, myself or Kelsey or the president.
Kelsey, I think he asks for the chief.
Or you.
The administrative officer.
Yes, chief administrative.
I can sign somewhere if you'd like me to.
I will make a motion for us to move forward with signing the 2022 Emergency Federal Law Enforcement Assistant Grant as presented.
Could you add in the amount of?
In the amount of $5,259.20.
Support.
Okay. Motion made by Rust, seconded by Helmuth. Is this a roll call because of money?
Yes.
Yes.
If you'd call the roll, please.
Kemp?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Cook is absent. Helmut?
Yes.
Borjo?
Yes.
Great. Motion passes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Okay. Special events application and the park reservations requirement discussion.
So this was asked to be put on, after the meeting or a special event in June 11th. There was some discussion about, why we do this and how this came about. So in 2018, I'd only been here when I wrote this memo about 3 or 4 months. I think council had been working on this a little prior to that, and this kind of just shows the timeline, the thoughts and emotions and the minutes and how that's put together. So one of the things that was put out there is that we were charging to utilize public property, and that's not true. We don't. I get calls often where people say, we want to rent the park, we want to rent Centennial Park. I said, well, we don't rent it, it's free. You fill out an application if for a private event and you reserve it. If we were going to block off 2 hours for someone to propose, or 3 hours for a little kindergarten school, decide to close private event, they just reserve the park. There's no fee. We get a $100 deposit from them.
They give it back.
As long as they won't leave trash everywhere and stuff. And to date, we've always returned the deposit to the applicants that are reserving the park. So it's a reservation process that is all we utilize for those events. The events that rise to the occasion where it's a public event and going to be reserved, and a public event is going to take place, that's when the special event application kicks in. And it could be small or it could be large, like the Lone Ranger Parade or the Chamber of Commerce Christmas Parade. Those are quite large and involved. Chief Schultz, Chief Sowald, Don from DPW, a lot of people look into that and review it, where the lane closures, safety things. Chief even will go out and address some of those applicants about, can't have cooking items underneath tents and things like that. Open flames, I think, is more so. So that's the process and why it's there, because a lot of people have to look into the way on that. We charge a $50 application fee. I mentioned to Kelsey when she first was asking me to put this on, I said, it's up to you guys. We get 6 or 7 of these special event applications a year, $350, $300 a year. Doesn't make or break us at all. Does it help defray some of our costs for people to spend some time looking at it? Sure. But is it needed? No. The application, I think, is important because now we know who's there, what their plans are. Do they need porta-johns? Do they need tents? Do they need power? Don usually meets them over there if they're putting a banner or something in the ground, tells them where to put their stakes in the ground to avoid electrical and irrigation. It's just a matter of something that rises to that larger event. Like you have one right after this that someone's going to do in Scripter Park. I think they applied for this last year or two, but they, because of COVID, didn't have it. So that's just kind of how it is. We don't charge anything to use the parks, whether it's a private event or even a special event. There is a $50 application fee, and then there's always a requirement for insurance. Even for those people that had a proposal for maybe it was even a wedding there, right back in May, we had a wedding. Woman's, I think it might have been wasn't her homeowner's insurance, but she went out and got some insurance. coverage that met our requirements, and we had it in hand prior to their wedding. Smaller private event, but they did have the insurance to them.
So, personally, I don't have a problem with the way we've been handling those type of events. But I think when this application and process was laid out, it did not take into account protests. And I think that is an important distinction, because a protest is a First Amendment right. They can do it, frankly, anytime if they, and I would rather us have a heads up so we can have, the proper, proper services and forethought in place. But I do think I would like to have us look at what the legal definition of a protest is, but I do think we need to waive, if it does qualify as a protest, we can't add, it would be, if they do have insurance, I would like for that to be put in place, but I don't think we can require it. I don't think we can require a fee if it is a protest.
I have a question for Sue Bizzardi. You and I both voted no against this. Do you have any idea why?
Against what?
The 2018 special event application.
The motions were, there was one motion
Come on, Sue.
to adopt the resolution, policy, and application as presented, with implementation to begin January 1st. You, me, and Joe Frost all voted no. The next motion was to adopt the policy, procedure, and application for implementation immediately, and set aside the cost recovery contemplation until January 1st. You and I voted no. Everybody else voted yes.
Well, I think that we voted no because we wanted it immediately.
That's what
I think we all felt that there needed to be some form.
Well, the last one wasn't
that
immediate.
people had to apply to, or get a permit or whatever to make a reservation to use any of these things. And yes, I think we felt strongly that there should be some kind of recovery fee, but if
the fact that you and I agreed should be
I know,
and I just don't know.
that should be marked down.
Exactly.
And just as a side note, the following up the week after the March rally, 3 officers, our full-time officers, were there and had logged 5 hours overtime. That 5 hours overtime is between $600, let's say. Those are some of the things that were being discussed in 2018. If we know we're going to need X amount of people, we know we're going to need some overtime for DPW to set up barricades for a parade, should we, the village, be reimbursed for some of that, all of that, or none of it? I think that was part of that big conversation that was bouncing around then, and there was some difference of opinions. I remember Bill Dunn standing up here and saying, I think you should recover 100% of it like we do out there. I don't want my money to pay for somebody's Christmas parade. Not that he's against Christmas, he stated, but he just didn't like the concept. So there was a lot of that discussion that was part of that process.
Sue, your position, I think, was, if I recall, was that the expended resources of the village have to be made whole. And you didn't want to postpone that, and I think Mo didn't want to postpone that. And you wanted the resource cost to be made whole. Not a profit, just made whole.
And I can see that if it's a private event or a nonprofit even putting on an event. But the cost for providing if we choose to put police out there for a protest, that cost should not be, the money should not be an obstacle for people who are wishing to exercise their rights.
And when people have called, I've had people call me over the last couple of years, say, well, I just want to, I want to come and I want to walk on M24 and maybe hold a sign. I said, you can do that. Anybody can do that. You can walk down the sidewalk with wearing a sign saying just about anything. You don't need our permission. It's when they want to reserve the park for a specific thing, that's when, okay, either reserve it or it's a special event. That's where I would have been falling down.
Mo.
I know where you're coming from, Allison. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, it's public property. If 500 people want to walk up to Scripter Park and start yelling about whatever they're yelling about, we can't stop them. But if you want to reserve that park to make sure no one's having a wedding that day in there, or a kindergarten graduation or whatever, that's different. And there are instances where two opposing groups in other communities have been denied applications for protests so that there's not violence.
Can we see what an application for protest is? I guess, or what is
I don't
that?
know what an application
I don't
for
know what that is.
protest-
I mean,
protest,
for what,
protest.
if that's,
So if you
I guess I've
can,
never thought about that before, but, or, to,
if you canvass other communities' applications for events, many of them do list protests. And I think it's not that they want to regulate, charge, or they just want to know about it. In other words, you don't want a 500-person surprise park event that you didn't at least have knowledge of it. The thing that you have to be careful of is whether or not you want to become the arbiter of what is a protest, a right of assembly, versus what is an event. And that can get blurry because the concept of a protest is to express a freedom of speech on an issue. It becomes blurry when you have a church organization who wants to hold a church event and express their views and have a little bit of a gathering. I don't think that's a protest, but it is, to me, that's an event of free speech. The churches should be able to gather and say what they want to say or do whatever they want to do. But now you're into the public property, you're into the church and state, and you're into all kinds of other issues.
I see what you're saying.
If you get a call from a group that says, we want to use your park to hold a rally in favor of X, Roe versus Wade, X, some political issue. Is that a protest? Is that a gathering? Is that an event? Are you going to be the decision makers as to whether that is a protest, not requiring insurance, or is that an event that should follow your process? I know at the last meeting I was asked for my opinion and I said I would follow your process. What you could have done at that point is said, this doesn't fit in our process, so we don't need the process. Right? That would have been a choice last time because I think you were headed towards the idea that what they were asking to do was a right, not a permission. You were saying, we don't even think you need to be here. We don't need to approve this, but we're going to waive insurance and move along. I'm not saying it's going to be a blurry line every time, but sometimes it's going to be blurry. And, weddings, I think people reserve your they just reserve it and they have a wedding. I don't know if a wedding's a protest, depends how it's going probably.
They're always given a chance.
Might be in the year.
Whoever shall not, these two may
Right.
stand up and say, no,
Can it be a religious ceremony? I think at some level, weddings are religious ceremonies, right? I've been at some that go way too long. So you see where these lines begin to get fuzzy.
What events do we have that we don't say you have to have insurance for? When do we have events without insurance?
We have not.
Okay. So
Until-
that's where the concern is.
Until the last one, you waived, and then I know I spoke and I said, make sure your motion waives the insurance, and I think you did that.
That was the hurdle the applicant was struggling with. They weren't completely formed in their organization, and so it was pretty much impossible for them to obtain the insurance.
But they had a sponsor who was formed and does have insurance, because I verified that. So, for example, if you had an impromptu group who wanted to come and speak about gun rights, and they were sponsored by the NRA, I think you know that there's insurance there, right? But is it your job to see through that? It's a heavy burden.
One thing that I would like to maybe make a change on is when someone reserves a park for a wedding, we get a $100 deposit. Chances are they're going to leave the place in great shape. Someone applies for a special event application for a parade all the way through town, we don't get any deposit. There's a much higher chance that there's going to be trash and stuff left behind in that. So either we've never not returned someone's $100 deposit for their private event at the park, because they've always done a good job of picking up after themselves. Maybe let's make some uniformity, I guess is all I'm going to say, is hey, if we're going to get a $100 deposit for 40 people to sit in the park, shouldn't we get a $100 deposit for the 3,000 people that are going to be in the parade?
For a public event.
Or a public event, that's all I'm saying. Maybe we should make that uniform, the deposit part of it.
I actually don't mind that. The non-refundable application fee of $50, I think, becomes a little inequitable, especially when we're dealing with students, and even if they had parents or whoever. And $50, depending on who you are, may or may not be a lot. But I know, I watched the students there afterwards picking up so much and really putting in the effort for however many hundreds of people were there.
I mean, pick up garbage.
Yeah, picking up garbage, putting everything away. And I think, my preference would be, we're not going to be made whole anyway, regardless. And so
50's not going to make it.
It's not going to make us whole, but if we had, a refundable deposit that if you do clean up and do your part, and that's going to be a judgment call, obviously.
And the small private groups, we do require, the reservations, we do require a $100 deposit, but the larger events such as that with hundreds of people, we don't require a deposit.
That would make more sense to me. I guess I don't know what the right answer is for insurance coverage, and I even in my notes here, I would ask myself questions and go back and answer myself. I think it was a special case, and we're dealing with special circumstances around November 30th, and I don't know.
And they weren't there yet.
Your amendment rights, it was just a tricky spot to be in.
It was.
A year from now, they might have their organization papers, they might have their insurance already in place, and they just contact their agent who sends us a notice, a certificate of additional insurance, like everybody else does. And it wouldn't be an issue.
You have the right, you have a process, but you always have a right to waive a part of your process. For example, you have a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act process, right? And you have a fee structure for producing documents to people who submit a valid FOIA request. But those people can always ask that the fees be waived, and then it comes to you. You're the only one who can waive the fee on a FOIA. So it's not like you can't waive an aspect of the process, but I think you should have a process.
This is the first time that someone has had the insurance be a hurdle to them. So again, it was new for me as well. Everyone else.
But it's a broader question. The broader question that I was struggling with, learning about that issue at 5:30 and speaking about it at 7:30, the broader issue is, does the event that was placed before you require your process? Or, as Chair was just saying, was it really just a right of assembly that didn't need our process, right?
So what stops the Lone Ranger protest from deciding they're going to hold a protest parade?
Yeah, they want to protest the Lone Ranger.
Did we have a Lone Ranger protest that I missed?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like the hypothetical.
Just checking.
No, the hypothetical, and then, so,
And then
if
what
they're trying to
happens-
circumvent,
Right. And what happens when you have a impromptu protest that interferes with a reservation you've already made for another user?
Well, and that was something I know we were facing.
Right? You were in a jam there because that park for that day, for that hour, had already been pledged to another entity.
I think that that's something that, if you're comfortable with it, Joe, I kind of think something like that should be in the hands of the manager to say, you know what, this is, somebody is coming to us with clearly what is their constitutional right to assembly, and they're asking for this, and thank you for the notice. If you can get me insurance, that would be great. This is the day you're doing it. I see the parks are open. You need to get in touch with police and because it's not technically an event. It's not in our process. That is something, you know, rather than having a council meeting for that, I mean, that's my kind of thought.
I hear what you're saying, but I think if there was someone other than Joe in his seat, like I know there was a community that discouraged a protest and said they'd come after them personally for the cost.
See that?
So I don't want.
You're raising it, it becomes subjective to the person in Joe's chair. Without guidelines, you're, you know, and believe me, there are entities out there who will set you up and you know, just to make a point. So you would be having Joe become the decision maker on that. That's a.
Okay.
So what about a concept where legitimate or pre-planned assembly issues are notice only? Which want to know about it? Think about that concept.
Question.
And the chief would want to know about it, and this chief would want to know about it, because those are sometimes, now I'm not saying every time, but sometimes protests that are intended to be peaceful and just to make a point. Sometimes stuff happens.
When my sister Kathy, bless her heart, slept on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1969, I don't think she filled out an application. My question is, the process that we have right now, 99.9 times, does it work? I think we don't change the application. We just keep in mind that not everything is a wedding, not everything is a kindergarten graduation. Sometimes it's just somebody really pissed off who wants to protest. It's gonna sleep on the steps of the gazebo. And it's public property. There's nothing they can do about it. We ask for the information so we can inform our police department, our fire department, our DPW. But if somebody wants to protest, let them, there's nothing you can do about it. Let them protest.
Yeah, just get notice.
We stand behind our application, we ask for notice, and that's all we can do. And there's really nothing we can do about it. It's America. Flag's still flying.
I cannot disagree with that.
In the words of Bob Bunting, the flag's still flying. It's America.
You know, I don't disagree with that, Mo, because I think your public safety people would love to have notice of potential controversial events. Every protest has an opposite side and can draw an opposite side, normally. And that's the fodder ground for problems. So I don't think they have to apply to do that. Personally, I don't think that you have to apply to protest, but we could have a system of notice.
I have a scenario that happened like that a couple years back where I think it was like an ROTC group. They were doing some kind of a run from City of Lapeer all the way down to Lake Orion. And they contacted me and said, look, here's what we want to do. When we come into town at Centennial Park, and every couple miles they would set up tables with coolers and water and Gatorade or whatever. Sometimes there'd be a person there, sometimes not. The runners knew it. And it was called a ruck pack or something like that. They would carry a pack on them and then they would go. And I said, well, if all you're doing is come through town and you're gonna have a table of water sitting there, you're on the side of the road, you're on the gravel road or something out here. When they come in town, they're on the sidewalks. It really doesn't arise to our event application. There's nothing for us. It's a sidewalk. Feel free. And they did. And that's funny. Even going home that day, it was even on a Saturday. I was down there. All the way up to 24, all the way to Lapeer. They were. And every now and then, a couple miles, I'd see a little station of water or whatever. It didn't matter. It was one of those things like you're in the right of way, whatever. That didn't matter.
Protests are normally timely, so it's a hot event. It's usually, you're not going to protest something that's happened 15 years ago or might happen 15 years from now. It's usually a hot button. So I think you want to have notice, like Mo said. You want to know it's going to happen.
Absolutely. I just don't know if going through the whole council meeting to approve it outside of the application process every time. Because it may happen more often in our next year or two than, say,
Right.
it has in the past for us.
Right.
And just because of, who the sponsor is or what somebody thinks the message is, we go through this meeting and then we're bringing attention to it and opening up that two groups kind of concern. That's my only, I want to encourage notice because I think it's best for us every time if we can know
Don't
ahead
think
of
you
time.
can require it, but I think you should offer a process for it.
Yeah. I need there to be something. At the same time, I don't want to be like, hey, Oxford's the place for everyone.
Well, yeah, you don't want to become the, because I can tell you right now, communities around you require protests to go through a process. And then you become the one community where you can do whatever the hell you want in Oxford. You can protest, you can just go to their public lands and do whatever you want. I don't want that either. And I don't think you want that.
I think we need to know. I have one more question. I think, Bob, you had brought up something about churches, and so before we move into the next thing and topics, which is, a church special event application, and we're charging, or whatever it might be, like, how does that?
I just started looking at that on the way here. When I saw this on the agenda, I saw it.
It's a frequent occurrence
Right,
that
it
we're
is.
approving.
Right, we need to look at that.
They're reserving the park. They're reserving spaces.
They're just
for
an
park.
entity, they're an entity and they're reserving the park. You're kind of going one step down and saying, well, what's the content of who they are and what are they gonna, it's a church.
Some of them might want a picnic out there and say, we'd like 15 tables set up and we're gonna set up, 8 tents and have our food under it, and we want to be aware of that and see if they need any extra garbage buckets out there, or do they need any power ran, those kind of things. That was why it's helpful for us to know about it. Anybody can go out there and have a picnic in the park though, right? Just show up, Scripture Park.
But I don't think you want to treat a church any different than any other entity. All right, so I know this is an issue Kelsey probably should be here for as well. I don't know if we're going to solve it tonight. But I think you have some things to think about.
What are we trying to solve?
I don't know. We're trying to solve whether or not, we were asked to look at whether or not, Joe and I were asked to look at whether or not we could do something to our current application process to address the type of issue that occurred at your last meeting.
Could we have some sort of notice form, or, I don't know, or is it all just gonna go under this event application?
Even a park
It's
reservation,
then it's still
they fill out a
some-
park reservation form and send it to us, and, they always, is the park available? We check and we have a, thing, so, to be sure it's available, and then they reserve it.
That's the most important thing, is it available?
If it
I just
wasn't
feel-
available though,
I just feel sticky and icky that sometimes we're gonna charge people and we know it's not gonna recoup anything, and then sometimes we aren't. And I know that they're for different things and some public versus private, but I don't want any of us to have to
Yeah.
decide that.
The $50, if you scratch that and said, what's $300 matter to the village in a year, right?
like, I would feel more comfortable if we're just not charging. If you can provide insurance, please do, and tell us about it regardless.
Do they need power ran, and do they need speakers, or there's gonna be
yeah.
sound equipment?
There's,
board
bathrooms.
guns, but, and we tell them, no, you're not putting them on the grass in there, we put them over by the dumpsters.
And how many of these requests do we get per year?
6, 7. Like I said, it's $350, it's not a ton of money.
Maybe we should all chew on this one a little bit and
I would, this one too, I would like to hear Kelsey's.
place it on our July.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll make a motion to set this topic aside until the first regular meeting in July.
Support. All right, we have a motion by Helmuth, support by Kemp. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? All right, next on our agenda. I lost it. The Oxford Police Department bonus.
Nope, special event application 2204, Crypto Park.
Speaking of
Right
special
over that.
events.
Special event application, Crypto Park.
So it's in your application. This is folks who have, I think they've done it 1 year, and then with COVID stuff, they've been off for a couple years. They have their fee paid, they have insurance in order, and I would recommend approving the event.
What time do we normally open the bathrooms at Scripter Park?
11:30, I think. But they have people at the beach that go there, and Don usually would just say, I can run over and open them at 10, he doesn't care.
They just go swimming.
Yeah.
I'm not going to the lake. I'll make a motion to approve the application for special event 2204.
All right, motion by Helmuth, support by Lord. Oh my Lord, Bergeau. I'm sorry, Lord.
That's leaving you hanging.
Here we go. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Hearing none. Motion passes.
Did you vote no? Is that what you did?
No, she was asking for nays.
Okay.
No. I am in support of.
You did say nay.
But it was a question, like nays.
But it was a
It was a question. I am in support of
I
the
just
church.
wanted to clarify. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Bob. All right.
Okay.
Oxford Police Department bonus consideration.
So if you saw your email today, I don't know if it was noon-ish, I sent over a little memo. I don't have it even in front of me because I sent it to you guys, but Chief and I talked about this a week or so ago, and what I put in the memo, Mike, I think I copied you. I don't know if you did see it. Mike was very appreciative even of the thought, and this is one of the cases actually where the thought is what matters. We both have some concerns, and Bob even had the same concerns about, we have collective bargaining agreement coming up next spring with the officers. We don't want to send the wrong message. And as much as we all appreciate the police, I think we all kind of lump them in the police. I think not enough sometimes is thought that of those reserves. And that's what I tried to point out. Chief wants to elaborate, I think.
Yeah, I just see him like smile from ear to ear. Anytime council suggested they want to give us a bonus, yes, please. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just elated by the offer of that. We do have a contract negotiations coming up next year, so that would be a good time to show some love there. But listen, we've all been through some tough times the last couple of years since COVID started, and then we had the high school tragedy. It's just been a lot of work, but that's what we're here for. That's what we do. So there's overtime to get paid for it. The reserves know they come in and they volunteer for it. I'm the chief and I got a plan for it. That's what we do, and I'm just elated that you guys recognize that, and I constantly tell my guys that we have a supportive council, a great manager. I'm not just saying that because you guys are my boss, and a wonderful clerk. We've got a good thing going here, and we've got a supporting cast, and we're just going to keep rolling with what we're doing, and we don't necessarily need anything, but show some love when it comes to contract time, I guess. I guess we did talk about, we do an annual Christmas party every year.
Yeah, well, yeah. I didn't think about that today in my moment. If they usually go out and get donations for their party, and they all meet and they invite all their spouses, and it's the full-time, part-time, reserves, and that kind of a big camaraderie thing for them. Maybe instead of buying them food for the special event application, their here for, when the reserves show up. I suggested that there, that maybe you can provide some food and drink when they're here volunteering on those events.
We started a tradition 4 or 5 years ago, having our Christmas party at Homegrown, so we keep it local. They put on a fantastic food spread for us, an atmosphere, and we do that every year. Sometimes we do award ceremonies there. It's just a way for all of us to get together, us and the officers and the families, and we're there a couple hours, and then we move on. So, but that would be a way that, go out and try to find a sponsor. If there's a way that, we could get help with that, that would be wonderful. If not, we're going to find a way anyway. So, but again, I can't say enough. I really appreciate it. So if you don't do anything, we're still going to continue to do what we do. So, but we really do appreciate it, and I speak on everybody's behalf. So.
I know one of the things brought up was, the reserves. They drive here on their own time, away from their families. A gas card was a way to do it. I don't know, that gets maybe a little sticky, maybe. Providing food and dinner and drink while they're here volunteering, I think is an easy, low-hanging fruit, nothing to get worried about.
Yeah.
I think gas cards make a lot of sense, but it's just a trickier thing to do.
How?
If they could document their, see, when you get mileage from work, you don't typically get the mileage. You're not allowed mileage to and from the office, right? So if you drive over and above that, that's when you get reimbursed mileage. So it wouldn't be even very easy to, hey, well, you drive 20 miles here, 40 miles, we'll give you so much per mile of the IRS reimbursement.
That's only showing one aspect of the police force, and instead of just all of it when we do the Christmas party. So I just thought that was a great idea for, if that's something.
Do we ever do appreciation events?
No, they're allowed by charter, I know.
You can.
We used to do them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been
They
a
were
tough
horribly
year.
painful experiences.
This is
They like for all the
For the planning commission, the
planning commission, the
ZBA.
DDA, all the board members, and we paid for the board members, and if they wanted to bring their spouse or significant other, and we gave out little trinkets or cups usually. We had a thing that said, "Thank you from the Village of Oxford."
Right.
I don't know why we stopped that, because we don't even say thank you for the most part, to the boards that serve, the people that serve on those boards. We don't give them a letter that says thank you for your
Well, they get paid so much.
service or anything.
So they get paid so much.
Yeah, right.
Is there a typical dollar amount that you go out and request for?
Yeah, it's right around the $1,000 mark is what we
for the Christmas
ask for the Christmas party. Yeah.
Would we just need to make a budget amendment or add that in somehow?
Yeah, I think so, and I could even reference the charter section that authorizes those expenditures for, I guess, parades and appreciation dinners and things like that is listed right in the charter. I remember I did share that a few years ago when that was part of this discussion about costs with the parades and stuff.
I'll make a motion.
Can I ask a quick question?
Don't screw this up for me.
No, I just asked this because, as you know, I'm in government administration too, and I don't know if it's because it's in your charter, but legally we can't give bonuses, we can't buy gifts, we can't.
That's the first thing I said, Brian.
How are you able to do that? And we're a government entity too, and we're not. I would like to know.
Appreciation dinners and things like that, I believe, are listed right in the charter.
Yes.
Up to like 1.5% of
So
the
your
tax.
charter circumvents the other laws that regulate governance of tax dollars?
It's the charter's approved with the state of Michigan.
Well, we have to.
Listen, if this is going to cause a problem.
No, but let's check into.
Like I said,
No, he is. Brian, we're going to look into this now.
Please do, because I don't think.
I wasn't chief. Nothing against our police, but the reason I had the opinion I had on the union issue is I don't want the salary plus the bonus to become the bargaining base of the next union contract, because it wouldn't be a bonus that would be paid every year, obviously, but this year it would look like the salary was inflated. Whether or not we could have done that anyways, I wasn't asked, because it very well could be not authorized. What we can do what Sue was talking about under the umbrella of appreciation, we will have to look at. And if we can, you can make a motion. If we can, then you would like $1,000 of that to be in the appreciation of the police chief Christmas event.
Why don't we revisit this next month?
We don't need to do it now.
Make a
Like I
motion
said-
that we ask Bob to review.
Because I want to be sure on this.
We're able to do and report back.
Like I said, I
Is
can.
that your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay, does anyone like to support?
I'm gonna support it.
Okay.
Very well worded.
Right, that's exactly what I said.
All right, motion made by Burchot,
Well, the DDA could.
supported by Helmuth. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none. Okay, thank you.
I think the DDA's, because they're under a different statute, what they're under.
Thank you,
their statute
Councilman.
probably.
It's a government thing, though.
I think, Brian, you might be right.
No,
I don't think
we'll have to look at it.
Appreciation dinner for everybody, because you appreciate everybody.
Do we?
It's not just the police department. Don't you appreciate the planning commission and the
I don't
DDA
think
board?
it's just a government thing though, just knowing how other.
Well, I think your lawyers can look into that, and I trust his opinion, but I know I've never been able to do it.
Again, a bonus is specifically something that's,
That's why we have longevity checks. It's a way to circumvent the bonus.
Use the word circumvent.
I think everybody knows it's a way to circumvent the bonus.
Okay, council meeting dates in July through December of '22.
Do we just want to look at July and then wait for everyone to be here next month? Because I think
Yeah,
Kelsey
that's
had
probably-
some.
She did text me back this afternoon.
Okay.
I threw out maybe, we didn't want to do, obviously, second Wednesday came up once, but we can't do that because that conflicts with the township, and then chief can't go to both meetings, and I'm sure you would hate to miss one. But like the third Wednesday or fourth Wednesday, Wednesdays work good for me, they work good for Bob. Kelsey texted me this afternoon, she said, hey, Wednesdays work good for her.
Why aren't we doing a normal meeting next month?
Well, again, in the schedule here, July 12th is the reason behind part of this was the school board conflicts,
Got it.
right?
It's every second Tuesday as well.
Yeah, every now and then they hit a weird one, like in November it goes to third Thursday because second Tuesday is election day, I think. Maybe that's why they have theirs on a different date, I would assume.
Got it,
Well,
okay.
and frankly, it's probably just an accessibility issue that it probably should not be on the same day as another major entity in our community.
As it is now,
Yes.
so many, it's a hot.
Yeah.
It never was until,
I mean,
right?
No, but it
For all these years.
We've been with the town, or the school
Yeah.
board for the same thing for all eternity.
Well,
The
I
fact that
think
people are actually interested for a little bit.
Well, let's keep people interested and give them an option to go to vote.
Okay.
Going on like the third Wednesday, it would basically be almost like a week after your normal meeting, middle of the month type thing.
What day is that, the 20th?
It'll be the 20th.
I'll make sure I'm not on vacation.
That is, I mean, it would be fine. It's just the Washington Square ribbon cutting is going to be at 5 to 6 that day.
Well, then that would be over by now.
Correct.
We were opening it up to the public after to do with the sick pizza for night and making it kind of a big deal. But, I mean, the public can still go.
I don't know how riveting this meeting will be.
To pull people away from your event.
Just walk them on down here.
They can come.
And to conclude,
Here's a look into all the more meetings that went into this event.
I mean, if because of the month of July being as it is, it's easier to stick with the normal for July and then start doing that in August. I mean, that's really.
The cable commission canceled their July meeting because it's summer.
Yeah, no to cancel July too.
It is,
At least they didn't cancel summer.
We just had a special meeting there.
it makes no difference to me. Whatever works for next month.
Yeah, if we do July 12th.
That is only 2 weeks away.
It's very, yeah, you almost have to get your agenda done
Yeah, and
now.
we've asked for a lot to be on the next already, so The
So we're
20th
leaving the
fine?
12th, is that what we're doing?
I think we're gonna do 20th. 20th?
That's 2 weeks from tonight, so that means the council packet would go out. When we come back next Tuesday, the packet would have to go out next Thursday. So we'd be back for 2 days next week and the packet would have to go out.
So we're going for the 20th?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we do for August? Let's quick
We're
it
just
up.
gonna go we're gonna go third Wednesday.
Are we doing it for all?
But so no meeting on the 20th, just one in August.
The one in August would be, what, August 17th? And then September 21st.
Hang on, I gotta go month by month. I'm not that fast, sorry.
Bob,
Yes.
our charter says our meetings are on the second Tuesday. Can we
Yes.
keep doing this?
Eventually you have to change it. You're gonna have to amend your charter, but,
I am not amending the charter.
well, okay.
That's crazy. That's a lot of work.
As long as you follow the rule of publishing your regular meetings annually and you need to stick to it. The governed public has to have some amount of right to count on your meeting schedule. And that's why you publish it early in the year. You say, this is our regular meeting schedule. Everything else is a special meeting, like you were saying earlier.
I just don't feel comfortable going months and months and months, changing our meeting date. And I know people want to be at both. Well, no one wants to be there. I know people want to be there. But I think we need to take that into consideration.
Okay, at the risk of displeasing Mo, what would it take? I'm not sitting next to her anymore.
Well, I'm gonna say, just as far as July, I think we should go for the 20th either way, because,
It's a short window
yeah.
between now and then.
Yeah, so whatever you guys decide to do going after that, yeah, make work with.
I know I had asked Kelsey just either for November, was it October or November to be looked at, because I know as it stands, I think I would miss both meetings. And I didn't want to miss both meetings if possible in November, or October and November. So if there was, if I miss one, that'd be fine, but I was wondering if we could look at either or.
Well, the November meeting's gonna be canceled or switched because that's on election day. That's
Okay.
the 8th.
It's not gonna happen, right?
November 15th, that's like the third Tuesday. That would never be the second Tuesday.
Yeah, no, right, the November 15th that's the school calendar, right? Because the second Tuesday that's on their calendar, that's the oddball on their calendar.
Okay, so we need to switch November 8th anyway,
Because it's election day.
so could we look at November? I know it's a week.
I won't be there. I've got to work the election.
Well, I know, but I'm saying, like, if we're gonna move it anyway, like, let's pick a different day, and then we're not getting into the sticky of we're rescheduling every single one. Is that all right?
Meeting schedule?
Yeah.
I don't think it was straight to second Tuesday. I don't think we looked at that, it was an election.
Or do we want to have it?
Together had the 8th.
Do we want to have it earlier on the
first?
Because that would be a turnaround of,
There's a planning commission meeting in theory on that day.
In theory.
It's November, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, that's good.
because if someone gets elected on the 8th, are we going to drop off a council packet to them on the 10th?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what happened this last time.
Okay.
That happened to some
Is
of
that what
you?
happened?
Change the name on the envelope.
That happened Does that happen to some of you?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the election
You're like,
process.
welcome.
Okay.
Here you go. Now I don't feel right moving it up, because then
Well, no,
I'm
not
trying
to
to like
take-
sneak in some last minute.
No. Okay, now I hadn't thought about that. I'm sorry. No, I had not thought about that.
What about the 9th? Well, that's a really fast, never mind. Jeez Louise.
stay up till midnight, I hope.
Read your packet. Welcome. I guess what would work best for Terry, I think is the biggest question.
What are you talking about, July?
November.
November, they're in November.
We've changed 3 months. Why don't we let those 3 months go by?
Did we change 3?
Oh, boy.
We've said
November.
7/20, 8/17, and
Oh,
9/21.
We didn't do August or
We
September.
only did July
Yeah, only July.
at this
They
point
were
in time.
noting it would
We were
be on
saying
the
what every
17th.
third Wednesday would be. And then you brought up the concerns, which is fine, but that's why we didn't actually.
That's why Allison's afraid of me.
Yes.
Is my comment would be, let's take these 3 months, go to the Wednesday, and then look at it again when we see what's going on in the world in 3 months.
That doesn't affect, that her issue was November, October and November?
So it goes to September.
Well, do we,
But November's voting day.
yeah, we don't need
So we're not
to.
gonna do
August and
November.
September, you're not worried about.
Do something about November anyways.
You guys can meet in November.
Is it gonna be?
No, Ashley just said she can't make October or.
We don't all have to be at every meeting.
I know. But I'm saying, like, do we need to switch August and September? Is that gonna be a conflict for you, Lori?
I mean, but this is a precinct location.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are we gonna, the next
You
room
can't.
over, I don't think.
You can't.
No, not for the meeting, but just going back, like, I don't think we need
Okay.
to switch 3 months unless
So-
it's really problematic.
August is the last one before school starts.
Yeah.
And I believe that's when they're supposed to be announcing all the new 3-year plan and what's going on with the NCSS, and August is
Okay.
kind of an important one. I would go to that instead of here. Other than that, that's the only one I know for sure that I would definitely be going there over here. But other than that, we can stick with the Tuesdays, although November we should probably consider changing because we've got 2 people definitely out in November.
Is it okay to wait? Okay, let's just wait then.
You want to just do July now, then?
Just July.
Just set your July meeting.
July 20th, right?
Sounds like,
I'll make a motion to move the July regular business meeting for 2022 from July 12th to July 20th.
Support.
all right, motion by Helmut, supported by Burgell. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none. I'll move on to the northeast parking lot, the DDA resurfacing project, engineering proposal.
So you got the background on this project in there. I think I've kind of laid it out. The cost, the overall project that the DDA initially had decided to fund, based on getting the engineers involved and potential core sampling of the parking lot to ensure depths are proper and that the proper striping is done at the end, and the project just is done in accordance with our specs and norms. That's added approximately $25,000 to their project. The DDA board took action to authorize to cover 12.5 of that at their meeting in the hopes that the village council would pick up the other 12.5. So the initial estimates that they had on the parking lot was $130,000 to begin with. So the DDA is already in to the 130. So they're hoping that the extra 25 could be split with the village. On the 12.5, I think, is a fair amount of our skin in the game. We had 5,000 in to the budget for it initially. So this would be roughly 8,000 more.
I'll make a motion to amend 101-444, is this line item?
Yep.
Line item 101-444-810, parking lot maintenance from 5,000 to 13,000.
Support.
To be used for the northeast parking lot quadrant.
So moved.
I amend my support.
Motion made by
Your voice
Ross
got very low there.
and supported by Helmut. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes, you do. Borjo?
Yes.
Helmut?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
And Cook is absent.
Okay, items removed from consent agenda. We have none. Public comment. Anyone wish to speak?
Madam President Pro Tem, may I back up one second?
Did I miss?
So part of the project back was also the approval of those funding included the contract that was as the design engineering service proposal contract with Rowe.
Okay.
I just wanted to ensure that permission of that funding included, it was meant to include this work, but I just want authority to sign that contract to go forward as well.
Would you like a new motion?
Separate one would be fine. That was part of the additional cost.
Sorry. I skipped down to the bottom.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the village manager to sign the road contract for engineering services as provided in the packet, which is based on the engineer's proposal dated June 9th, 2022, with the understanding that the DDA will pay for the first $12,500 and the village will pay for the remaining. Do I need to do the whole thing again, or am I messing it up?
No, you're fine.
Okay, for the remaining $4,950 of the road design, engineering, and bidding costs, and that the village will also pay for any core sampling cost estimated at $2,500, and any on-site inspection cost for road during the project estimated at $5,000, for a total of approximately $12,450 for the village.
Support. Okay. All right, new motion made by Ross, or an additional motion made by Ross, supported by Kemp. Maybe we have a roll call, please.
Kemp?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Helmut?
Yes.
Borjo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Public comment, again. Your third opportunity. Go. Okay. Seeing none, committee reports. We have something from NODA, Lori?
They're getting ready to do the parking lot. They're just gonna do the back end, the parking lot area, doing some landscaping, gonna make it really pretty. And, but it'll be done in a couple phases, just so people know, because they're doing the whole new parking lot, like they're adding new parking lot in the back that wasn't there before. Some of the landscaping will be done up front, and some of it will be done after the lot is completed. And trolley's back. Yeah, I guess about it.
All right, Planning Commission and Cable Commission.
I feel like the planning commission hasn't met in a long time. The last time we met,
May. First meeting in May.
yeah, I think you've all been already updated on that. The cable commission did just meet. We have approved the installation of a sign on the building, agreed that our agenda packets are finally getting a little thin, that all the construction's done, all the kerfuffle's over. So we're gonna take July off. And that's about it.
DDA.
Well, I've missed the last two meetings, but I have my teammates over there to support. I know we're working on bylaws. We have lots of different events. I'm not going to go through them all because they are highly publicized, but lots going on in the community. Back with concerts in the park, we have Washington Square happening, which is where the mural was painted, so farmers market coming back. There's lots of different activity happening. We did receive a T-Mobile grant for $50,000 to do the backside of the southeast quadrant through the archway. So when you're coming, or not the archway, we want to make an archway, coming through the crosswalk to the back of the buildings. So that's exciting. we were asked, after submitting a letter of intent, asked to submit a much larger grant to Consumers Energy, so that was turned in, which would hopefully help with the backs of the other quadrants, most specifically the northeast, the backside there behind the school building, and then just that entire space by Red Naps, the pregnancy center. There's a lot of work to be done there. So fingers crossed. Lots of different applications going out and awards and all good things, but I will let either, Pete or Kelly, if they have anything to fill in, just because I know I've missed the last two, if there was anything.
So on Friday, they will be evening out all the sidewalks in the northeast and southeast quad. So any kind of tripping hazard at all, the DDA approved that project and they will start. And it's a quick project, just 2 days. So we're excited to have that done. And then I just wanted to make a quick shout out to DPW because I told Joe the other day, I'm like, okay, what can we do for these guys above and beyond? They built a part of the structure in the new Washington Square space for Stars of Hope, which that project will be done on Saturday. And they pulled up all the tree grates for me that I asked them to. They replaced signage. They cleaned up after a crazy family night for us at Concerts in the Park. They've just gone above and beyond and just super grateful for them. So
When is the structure being painted?
Tomorrow. That is on Kimberly and my agenda.
That's fine. I just don't want them to hang stars and then go out and spray paint.
Nope. So we are doing it all tomorrow and then they will place the Stars of Hope on Saturday.
Awesome. I'm gonna try to get pictures, or will you take pictures of
They
painting?
actually, I'm out of town, but they know to. I already
I'll be there on
talked to them.
Saturday.
Perfect.
So I just want to make sure, because our grant report over at the 4th CCF needs pictures.
Yes. Yeah. We've been documenting the whole process, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's what I was gonna ask about, the stars, are they already, all of them painted, or?
We
you
have
still-
500 ready to go.
Do you have the extra that I can take home today? Or did you already put them on my porch?
Sydney picked them up for me.
Okay.
Like an hour after I talked with you.
Thank you.
There's one up right now. So we have 500. It's a 40-foot structure that the DPW built. And so we'll have about 150 up to start, and then we'll rotate them.
Very cool. I'm excited for that one.
All right, Pollyant Trail, there was an event on the Pollyant Trail organized by some parents for to keep the kids involved over the summer and keep them busy and seeing other people, joining together. So there was a glow night ride that was successful. So that's for the Pollyant Trail and the staff and manager reports.
Can I add something to mine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll move to adjourn. The Cable Commission did receive a request from one of the members, Mike McDonald from Leonard, to amend our bylaws. And it was kind of came to us in pieces. And we actually denied the request because we felt that our bylaws already covered what he wanted, he just didn't like the language. And to amend the Cable Commission's bylaws is a huge process for communities and to all agree on everything, and that's never gonna happen. So we did deny the request, but we did feel we denied it because we felt what he wanted was already in there. So if anybody gets any calls about it, that's why we did it. I think we're good. The other representative from Leonard was there, and he didn't disagree with us. So that's the heads up on that.
Thank you.
What I would touch on is the Denison project. It's a little bit in schedule. They started a week after we initially had planned. And then the first week in, they discovered it under the street gas main that consumers had abandoned years ago, but took like 6 hours to show up to test it and everything and show them. So the first day or two out there, they weren't making a lot of headway waiting for consumers to show up. Just this week, there's a catch basin on the south side of the 5-1 South building there, right on the edge of Denison. That was meant to just be, moved a little bit, or, the curb moved a little bit, and so it kind of had this dip in the curb line. Well, once we got down there and looked at that catch basin, it had to be replaced. It was just old cinder blocks with metal pieces across, the cement was sitting on, no bottom in it. It was just terrible. So that sent them back for a whole another day and a half, digging that whole thing out, getting a whole new structure sent down and set in today. Monday was rough because they were all over from Denison and 24 all the way up through there, doing all the concrete removals to the sidewalks and the curb areas. So it made it very difficult for people coming into the parking lot trying to find their way out because it was such a moving thing. We did request that they get a few more signs for directional arrows in the parking lot. So that has helped. They aren't working the full stretch of the zone. That's the biggest help. But I think it was rough Monday. At least it was a Monday. I know that some of the businesses aren't open then, so it didn't have an impact on all of them. But we have talked to the contractor about, that they should have better signage on that process as well. But they're moving along. The installation of the water lines and mains that have went in well, they're getting ready to waiting for another bacterial test. And then they're gonna start switching over the few homes that have the service leads to the new water main. They got done sooner than we thought, and when they went into Burdick Street for that closure, which required the MDOT permit closure, they got done and paved, I think it was Friday morning, they were back open instead of Friday. I was crossing my fingers for Friday at the end of the day, and they actually paved it Thursday and got open Friday morning, so go ebb and flow. We have some good luck, we have some bad luck, but all in all, we're happy with them, the way they left it for that weekend event and things. For the June 11th event, they had it cleaned up really nice, so like other projects of that size and digging in under old streets, you never know what you'll find. So, but all in all, we're happy with them, and it's going right. Well, yeah.
Chart of accounts conversion has been completed, so we'll be doing some cleanup and follow up with that, because some of the...
That'd be a terrible job.
It's an awful job. It's probably we'll find things for a while, but, we consolidated some, we eliminated numbers that are not being used. The numbers, we only changed what we absolutely had to, but there's enough changes there that, yeah.
And this is a state of Michigan thing. Every
Yes.
community across states have to do it. Probably, other entities as well. You can do with the charter accounts.
The DDA
Mandated
is
from
probably...
up on high.
I'm so glad I've gone private.
You're what?
I've gone private,
Oh,
not
yeah.
public.
Yeah, anyway, the DDA's probably got the biggest mix-up because they had way too many accounts and they had wrong accounts. And so a lot of them were merged and then they were changed into something else. But we'll figure it out. It's not like...
I'm just thankful for you. I just found a Terry and I'm like, what do I do?
So, yeah, just to give you a heads up on that, you might be looking at some of the expenditure revenue reports going, what the heck? Because the descriptions don't always line up with really what the, the activity is, because the system will decide which description based on how the numbers were transferred or the activity was changed as to what description it was going to assign it, so.
As we read through them here and there,
Yeah, if
we'll
you see
find those
anything.
oddities and they'll be fixed.
Yeah. Just ask and I'll do what I can to fix that all up.
Chief, you're good?
I'm good, everybody's doing a fantastic job, and thank you for the support, Council.
All right, Council Calvert, Lori.
Thank you all for considering my date request changes when they come up. I appreciate that. And it was I liked having the kids come out today. I think they had said something to me about wanting to do something like that, and I said, well, you should ask the village, because I know we're usually, I have no question that we're supporting our community, and we'll always do that first, so I appreciate being up here with you guys, and that's about it. Done rambling. Go, Mom.
I got nothing. I think it's in plenty.
Thank you, everyone. You're all great.
Thank you all for being patient. Thanks for the help.
Good job.
Good job.
Thank you. But yes, we will all wish Kelsey a healthy, speedy recovery because
I only got 2 text messages.
She was on YouTube.
she was. She said.
She was having trouble hearing, but she
Yeah,
was on
so,
YouTube.
but yes,
I'll make a
again.
motion to adjourn at 9:16.
Second.
So, all right. Motion made and seconded by Ross. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.